Guys, we're back.
Yeah.
Super
I
Bowl.
thought
Oh, we
Daniel
both
was
said
going to
it at the
go
same
first.
time.
I thought Daniel was going to go first.
But I said
Bowl.
Super Bowl, but Adam said it as well.
Yeah.
So
It
it's
is
not
Super Bowl
unique anymore.
Sunday.
Super Bowl. This
Are you guys
podcast.
excited?
Kinda.
I mean, yeah, like I'm interested to see what commercials they play.
I can't wait to see the next trailer for this big blockbuster movie be played tonight.
You know what the
I can't wait to
I
watch
kinda
it on,
wonder
like,
which
on
movie it is.
Netflix or something.
Yeah.
I know. I can't believe Robin Hood's doing commercial. The audacity.
I'm hoping to see a Book of Boba Fett trailer or something like that. That could probably come out. I don't know. Maybe a new trailer for Godzilla King of the Monsters, even though we just got one. I don't like.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. That's really about it. I had it a little later, but I might as well ask you guys now before we get into the hockey. Who are your picks? And by the way, I'm going with the Chiefs. Daniel. who are you
Daniel,
going
go.
for? Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of split on this.
Oh my
because-
God. There's two teams.
Yeah, so I'm gonna split.
Okay,
on this,
Daniel,
so-
who's your honorable mention outside of these two teams? Just so we can.
There's no honorable mention. There's
Aaron
just
Rodgers was the MVP, but
yeah.
Yeah.
There's conditions here.
Oh, great.
I sometimes I don't really agree with Tom Brady's political moves with things,
What?
but you know you got to feel for the guy. He was a 6th round pick mentality kind of guy. So
I don't feel bad for him. He's
I
a
don't know.
millionaire.
Yeah, I don't
no,
feel
I mean
bad
like
for him.
you gotta love that. Like he is.
Oh yeah.
You know, when we think of the Henrik Lundqvist and the Henrik Zetterbergs, we think of Tom Brady. But on the flip side, the Bucks are like not the Bucks, the Chiefs are. And this is coming from a non-football fan, so all I can see is like they're built from the draft and they're built from youth, so it'll be fun.
Alex.
Okay. I mean, listen, you're asking someone who knows very minimal, has no knowledge of football, but my understanding is you try not to bet against Tom Brady, just like you don't bet against Sidney Crosby. So I'm gonna go with the Bucks.
I think you have to have
Buccaneers.
some respect for the reigning defending I almost said cup champs. You gotta have some respect for the reigning defending champions.
Yes.
And it's Mahomes' time. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't like how Brady looked versus Green Bay, but Green Bay sort of
Wow.
sort of blew
Look
it
at-
themselves there. He had 3 picks in Green Bay. Could do
Look
anything about
at
it.
this football
Wow.
analysis.
Listen, I don't know a ton about it, but what I know is you don't get those many turnovers from Brady blowing it and then like punt the ball. Go for it, you fools. I mean, like even, it's not, listen, I'm no football guy, but I like Mahomes. I like the shampoo commercials he's in. Seems like a great guy. Let's go.
Based on what you just said, you are now the resident football expert on the show.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Also, I don't want Antonio Brown to win, so
Okay.
it's that simple. It's that simple.
I just
Okay,
want both teams to have fun.
Yeah, sure. Just hope it's a good game. I'm looking forward. Normally, I don't care about the halftime show, but I don't like the weekend. Good old Canadian kid apparently spent his own money. Should be fun to look at.
Scarborough, Ontario boy.
Is he from Scarborough? Huh?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Like
That's
Wayne
really
Simmons.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned it. I guess we can't say that. News of the day around the NHL, and we'll get more into the Leafs and their games, their slaughters of the Vancouver Canucks a little later. Same with Montreal and the Sens having a little 2-game series. Elliot Friedman reporting that he's hearing that Wayne Simmons might be out for 6 weeks after blocking, I believe it was an Alex Edler shot in last night's game. The Leafs themselves, as far as I've seen, have not confirmed anything yet, neither from Simmons himself or the agent, even though they normally wouldn't say, but you never know.
Right.
We're covering all our bases here. Normally it's
Yeah.
from the team, rarely from the agent, but we're just covering. But Elliot is pretty well sourced.
Is he well sourced?
I
think
hear.
so.
I've
Is
heard
that what
he-
sources have told you?
Listen, he liked my shoes that one time. So
He's credible,
yeah. Nothing to
Did
do
you
with
know it was on though?
numerous breaks. It's on. Alex, quit clowning around. It's on. But guys, I tweeted out that, and I was watching the game last night. Luckily, because they had spaced out Montreal at 1, the Leafs eventually at 7, and then Battle of Alberta at 10. 3 fantastic hockey games. So I got to tune in, and I am just I was thinking to myself last night, oh boy, this is not the Wayne Simmons I expected to see. It feels like we're watching Wayne Simmons back in his Philadelphia days. I don't know if you guys are feeling that, but Alex, I want to get your reaction first to the news. And yeah, it just sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's again another injury. I feel like we're just not allowed to have nice things in the city. Broken roads, TTCs never works, and injuries. But this it is a significant injury for a couple reasons. Number one, like he's not a point producer, right? So he's not a big point producer. Like you don't expect him to produce the points that you expect of the other guys on this team. But I think he brings something to this team that a lot of other guys don't. But I think you're starting to see it rub off on Matthews, on Marner, on Tavares. Well, Tavares is the exception there, but it's starting to rub off on these other guys. And I think that's what's really important for him to be out 6 weeks. I don't think it's the same. And the same thing goes with Joe Thornton. The full effect that he can rub off on these guys won't happen unless he's on the ice as well. So I think him still being with the team and stuff like that, his mentality will rub off on them, but not the same way that it would if he was on the ice too.
Mm-hmm. Daniel, there has been that off ice stuff. What's made this signing even better is, and he had a pretty damn good goal last night. Wayne Simmons, on top of all this, is scoring goals, or was scoring goals, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think that's the unfortunate thing. Like you mentioned, he was an all-star with the Flyers for that 1 year, and to see him to kind of come out like that and become turning back the clock a bit, I really liked it. I liked the signing since the beginning. I liked what he brought to the team, and I kind of think that with that whole readjusted culture we talked about accountability of playing with a bit more toughness and more grit, it's really translated not just from his play but from what we've seen in the lineup. Like one thing, and this is just from what I see on the ice, a lot of the skilled guys in the top are playing with a bit more comfort now. They're playing with a bit more doing their own thing. That maybe there's that factor in there that he's not like an explicit enforcer, but he's also someone that could still play in all situations that he's been put in. So it's unfortunate, and again, like short season, that 6 weeks is going to feel like a long time, and I really hope he gets up to speed once he's able to get back into the lineup.
I think the thing that a lot of people, or including us too, to a certain extent, missed is the fact that he did not play for almost a full calendar year. 10 months he went without playing. The league shut down on March 13th or around then. And obviously Buffalo wasn't invited to. Yes. Do you remember he was on the Buffalo Sabres? Because I forgot.
I actually
was just
thought
thinking they could have used him right now for that locker.
Right. Sorry,
I forgot that carousel of teams because
right.
It was Philadelphia, Nashville, New Jersey, Buffalo.
Yeah.
Nashville, yeah.
And obviously Buffalo weren't invited to the bubble. So he didn't play for a full calendar year. And I think it allowed him. I think he always had these lingering injuries, and I think a lot of players have them as well, not just Simmons. And I think what this break allowed him to do was actually fully recover. And considering what the Leafs training facilities have, whether it's medical staff or even just development, I think this was the best case scenario for him. The same went with Tyler Ennis, and I think the same went with Jason Spezza.
Mm-hmm. And it especially helps Simmons time off because of his physical play. That's what makes Wayne Simmons special. And man, 10 months, I wish it was happening with Erik Karlsson, but at least it's working for one guy around the league. And a memory I will always have of Wayne Simmons is he's not dead, but
I was going to say,
I think it was his last game in Philly. and before the deadline, and Claude Giroux had a moment with him on the ice where it was like, you know what, we're gonna miss you, man, because they knew, and he's that important to a locker room. We'll revisit the Leafs in a little later here. First off, actually they're in the news a lot here. First, the Rangers. Now the Leafs are getting involved with the PWHPA. It's so difficult to say. Announcing a formal partnership with both teams. Amongst other details, the Rangers and the Leafs will host games for the PA's 2021 Dream Gap Tour. Another step in the right direction for women's hockey. And we, of course, know the NWHL's season at Lake Placid got canceled, but at least on the same breath, we can also look at the PWHPA and see Alex that the women's game is taking more steps forward.
Yeah, I think we had this discussion last week, in what's next for the women's game. And I think that we had this discussion before the Rangers announced their partnership. Mm-hmm. And what a coincidence, because I think the end goal, and we've had this discussion before, is the NHL, they want the NHL to be involved in somewhat, right? The way that the NBA and the WNBA work in a way. And the fact that there's teams who are willing to partner with the PWHPA is a good sign.
Yes. Daniel.
Yeah, I really like it. I know that it's going to showcase a lot more of the talent. They consider to be 125 of the best women players in the world, and big things. Another big market is going to support this, that now you're going to have these teams play in New York, play in Toronto, and what other cities than these to really showcase that talent, to showcase that we can grow this fan base, we can grow this exposure. So it's just another step in the right direction, especially from what we were talking about the last two episodes about where everything is going to go. It gives a good amount of stability here on this topic.
I just wanted to throw this thought out there before we moved on. They've been saying, I think the end goal obviously was to bring the NHL as a whole and to get them involved. I don't know if I necessarily see that as a reality, considering the state of current at some of the NHL teams. We know which teams are the big dogs, and we know the rest of the teams are not very good financially. So, but what I can see, and I have no idea if this is something that they would even entertain, but it was just a thought that came to my head, is if, some of these bigger teams want to get together and support women's hockey, why can't they help them, them in those individual teams? Let's say Toronto, the Rangers, Montreal, Boston, etc., get involved and help develop this league. Is that at all a possibility? Because I don't see the NHL saying, hey, half of our teams can barely stay afloat at the moment. I don't know if we can personally get involved and spend the money on that at the moment.
There's precedent in the past for it. I mean, I think back to the Canadians had a very, very good relationship with the CWHL team, the Montreal Canadiens, right? Even at one point before this league shut down, they were playing games at the Laval Rocket Arena, right? They had a very, very good relationship. You go to a Habs game and, you would see these video packages of them doing training drills for fans and all that. So I would see it. And I mean, and that was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Even. That was before obviously the league shut down. So I can see it happening. It's just, I wonder if this is very much, I wonder if the league itself will be all right, if you teams want to do it, go ahead. But I wonder if the league itself, the HQ in New York, are hesitant for themselves to sort of take a step in. Because if I remember correctly, the word was they didn't want to pick a side. Because if the NHL really if the NHL, Daniel, takes the side of one league, and let's just, for the sake of it, because we have C teams partnering with them, let's say they throw their hat in with the PWHPA, then what sort of chance does the NWHL have if the other leagues have the big dogs on them?
Yeah, this is what I've also seen like the WNBA, where it's all about, that partnership. It's all about that exposure. That's how things kind of grow. That would have been kind of this and them kind of thing, where you're gonna have the fans that are gonna go, okay, I'm gonna support this, but that not every fan is gonna be someone that's gonna go out and look for this. This is gonna become something where it's just, let's just see what's on TV, because like, let's see what is getting the most like exposure out of this, because like at the end of the day, what we've talked about too is because there are a lot of diehard, you know like female female
Mhm.
hockey fans. There are a lot of like diehard like fans all around that love like women's hockey, and but the thing about it is, for it to grow, is that you need to attract more of like that bigger market, more of like those fans that they're quote unquote like not casual fans, but the ones that like they want an entry point to this. So if you're looking at it from like that point, like it's something that I kind of, and this is I could be wrong about this, but the SHL and the KHL are both pro leagues, but you and I don't watch it because we don't have that on TV, or we don't have that exposure to it, that we you still need like that marketing for it.
Mhm.
And just to go back on what we were saying before, I can't see the NHL, and I don't think it has anything. I think they want to get into this. Like I really do think the NHL wants to get involved in women's hockey, because I think it would be to their benefit. At the end, like it would, business wise, I think it would be to their benefit. But at the moment, like we were having discussions a couple months ago that the cap might not move for 5 years.
Mhm.
And like, this isn't the getting involved in starting a league is not a cheap thing, right? Like, it's not, here's a couple bucks, come and let's see how it goes. Like, it's an expensive thing. That's why I can see individual teams getting involved, like the Rangers and the Leafs, but the league as a whole, when half your teams are just having major trouble. To me, it's more concerning when I found out that there were teams that were going to lose more money doing nothing.
You also have to ask, okay, who's going to buy the teams? Because the CWHL owned a lot of their own teams. And that's why
Right.
they just sort of disintegrated when the league went under. Who is going to support those teams? Because I don't think the NHL themselves are going to be willing to spend the money to sort of bring those old teams in, or even to create and support new ones. Or, that's a question I very much have too.
Yeah.
It's just, if there was any sort of like, the timing is just so terrible.
Like, you want to find people who are dedicated to making sure that this works.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the worst thing that could happen is that you just get a rotating cast of owners, and it's just like sell. Like, I feel like sometimes that happens in the CHL, in that there's just kind of a rotating cast of owners with certain teams, and it's just never stable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when that happens, it's just not necessarily great for business.
Mm-hmm. All right. Are we good to move on then, lads?
I think so.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, the North Division player. It's been so fun. It's been so fun. We were talking a little bit about Detroit before the podcast started here, and I was thinking, oh, I don't even know what's up in Detroit. I still don't know what's up in the rest of the league, because the North Division has been so all-consuming. Pierre LeBrun had a good little thread on Twitter about it. If people want to check it out.
Oh, did he freeze for you, Daniel?
Yeah, he froze me.
Wow, this is a first. I'm gonna pause it.
Yeah, here we go. Round 1 of 10. It was
What?
all this great stuff.
Sorry,
I hope you
froze
know
Adam.
you cut out for like 30 seconds.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Can you hear me more now?
We can hear you perfectly fine
Yeah.
now. You just cut out for 30 seconds.
What was the last thing I said?
Something about I haven't seen anything in the other divisions.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the Pierre LeBrun tweet.
Okay,
and
yeah.
then-
Check out
Earthred.
Pierre LeBrun for talking
Yeah.
about that. Anyway, the two sort of 3-game stints, little series that teams are having, especially in the North Division, it's so fun. It seems to be players really, really enjoy them. And listen, I don't want to ask you guys if the North Division is going to stay a thing because not Trevor Daley, Bill Daley, deputy commissioner of the NHL, already said it's not going to happen. Bettman would hate it. It's not going to happen. But I do wonder if they do alter the schedule in a few years to sort of allow for more Canadian matchups, or even if they do for certain teams, like you've got Leafs or Montreal going into Boston, or Montreal Canadiens and them themselves, do these more series type of matchups, because I think it would do wonders for TV ratings.
If the league goes through with it, I think it would benefit them in multiple ways. Number one, travel. That's the whole thing. I believe it was Couture who first talked about it, and I don't remember the recent player who talked about it, but basically saying the traveling from city to city to city, especially let's say a team like San Jose, who probably has one of the worst travel schedules, is difficult, is hard on the body. Mm-hmm. And for them to be able to push it out the way they have this year, I think it benefits the players. Mm-hmm. It benefits, like you said, the TV ratings, because it's like, hey man, like if Boston and let's say Montreal are playing and they're playing Monday and then they play again Wednesday, and then let's say they play again Friday, like mm-hmm. that's those last 2 games are going to be really good, because I think it'll keep guys coming back, especially if those teams are good. And it gets a little bit gritty. And I think it will get gritty, right? Like, look at what happens over a progression of a playoff series from games 1 to game 7. It gets their guys are on edge. They want to beat the crap out of each other by the end of it, right? So I think that's the benefit there. I really do think that if they move forward with this, it would do wonders if they kept the Canadian division. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. I know they won't, but
Daniel.
Yeah, even if they don't keep the division, I like that they'll stay in the city for 2 games, because everything with the travel, it kind of reduces everything. Players stay a bit more fresh, and honestly too, like when it comes to certain rivalries, or the thing I talked about attracting new fans, where they want that sense of familiarity. Why not have like these 2 battles going on with these guys, with these 2 teams? For example, I remember it was Eric Stevens who said that if you don't live in like Central California, no one cares about the Kings and Ducks rivalry, because they play like once and then they go off later on. Like, I think that's like another potential thing that they can grow. And even from just watching the games as well, what Alex said about the rivalries, that these guys want to go up against each other. And I think from the managerial standpoint too, that if you're going to go like to a back-to-back, as a coach, you have to think about a hypothetical thing, like who are my healthy scratches, who's going to actually like slot into the lineup if I want to try something new this time, maybe get the victory, or fix some things that I didn't like the night before. I think that's something that's really effective. And I know it happens in the baseball schedule because of the length of the season, but it's worked wonders. Like, in my opinion, it's been fun, even from the coach perspective, that you'll look at these different matchups, or these on the fly changes, because that the next game you could slot someone else in.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. It's okay. Go. I'll bring it up later.
Okay. I think. Oh yeah. So there was something I was thinking about this last night. Is the North Division actually good?
No.
Like, I was thinking, like, okay, right.
No.
Okay, let's think about it like this. I have the worst feeling that whoever comes out of this division and goes to the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm terrified they're going to go up against the Capitals or the Pens and just get ruined. And it was so much excitement, but then they go up against a real team, because this entire division is really just a bunch of unproven wet sponges, to be honest. Like they
Yeah.
they could surprise. I mean, but like I just have this horrible feeling that there's just mist around this division, and it's just there's going to be a rude awakening if we when we get to the sort of later rounds of the playoffs.
Is Braden Holtby the poster boy of the save percentage of this division?
No, okay, man, what are you talking about? No,
Because
there's two goalies above 900 in this division.
Yeah.
Two. Hellebuck, and I have to find out the second one.
I feel like Jake Allen's up there. He was at 930 before.
Starting.
Starting?
Yeah,
Okay.
let me find it.
But it's
Is like save percentage like what at 0.839 right now?
sorry, who?
Braden Holtby.
I'd be surprised if it was that much.
But yeah, again, like I remember looking at that, like they were looking at the save percentages last night on Hockey Night in Canada, and the North Division is the only one that's below 900.
Price is at 899, for example. It's not fantastic. I seriously, I do worry about it. Now, obviously, those first two rounds are going to be amazing, but I'm just kind of, it's something I'm thinking about, and I was like, yeah, but
It's been fun for like fantasy team owners because there've been so many goals.
honestly, man, whoever wins the President's Trophy, it doesn't count this year. Like even more than it doesn't. Like scoring titles too. It's so all over the place this year. I think we just have to like ignore it. Like, if we look back at this season, like because it's just too like there's just gonna be some guys like Tyler Toffoli could score 40 goals, and I'd be like, yeah, but the Canucks, that's why. And like I look at what Montreal and Toronto are doing, and I feel like there are certainly players on both teams that like there are definitely some inflations here because of the level of teams, especially here in the North Division, with the just, and you brought it up there, Daniel, with the save percentage. It just feels like, I don't know, like is PDO just going to be a mess? Like I feel like looking at the end of this season, like sort of the statistical like breakdown of division by division, I feel like is going to be, you could write a book about it. I don't know how many people are going to read it, but I would.
So there's two goalies in the North Division who are above 900. First, obviously, Connor Hellebuck, 913.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Markstrom, 914. Anderson, 896. Price, 899. Koskinen, 889. Holtby, 888. Matt Murray, 875.
Okay.
I just want to point out that Carey Price is the third best starter in the team. How the hell is Markstrom that high? Good for him.
Yeah.
He's a good goalie.
He is. That's incredible.
It's more of a stable roster, I think, like in the back end.
Yeah, that's fair. But then the Hellebuck and Winnipeg's like,
Well, that's just
that
carried.
he did it last year
Yeah.
too, which this is just continuing on.
Yeah.
I remember what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Sorry, just something about the back to the staying in the same city 2 to 3 games. I remember hearing Brian Burke saying something about from the season ticket holders' perspective, are they going to like seeing the same team at home 2-3 times in a row? But if it's just a random team, I don't think it matters because in Toronto, in Montreal, in Vancouver, in the Rangers, the guys going who have season tickets, even upper bowl guys, even in Toronto as well, they're not going to watch 41 home games. They're not. It's just the reality. Like most guys are selling off their tickets. So I don't think it necessarily matters.
I'll speak for this Habs season ticket holder here.
Right.
Yeah, I would go see 2 out of 3 games, like 3 out of 3, no matter what against McDavid. Hell, I'd go watch the Sens if I needed to. Those are fun games. Of course I'd go. Hell, if it was like the Panthers, I'd still go.
Again, it works for baseball. Just saying. You know, they make a lot more money.
Like, Jesus, of course I would.
point.
Like,
Yeah.
Man, you know how badly I'm itching to get into the arena and watch hockey? Like, especially like after this year, people are going to be so just hungry to get in there.
Hungry for a Calgary Leafs game.
Especially Montreal and Toronto. They're just so hockey nuts. You can fill it every night. It wouldn't be a problem. He's being a bit. That's not even a question.
I don't think the point was from Montreal. Like, of course, I'd go watch 10 games in a row of Montreal and Toronto. Like,
But they're the
I
only
think
teams who sell season tickets.
that is true. That is true. But I think when Chicago, this year Chicago, comes to Toronto, it's not going to be difficult to go sell these tickets. I just don't think it matters because they're not going to watch 41 home games. I know people with Leaf season tickets in the upper bowl, they're not going to watch 41 home games.
Mm-hmm.
They're selling their tickets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I say we go on now. We can add Colorado to a list of many teams that are having games postponed because COVID is just hitting everyone over the head like a 2x4 in a horror film. You can talk about head coach of the Buffalo Sabres, Ralph Kruger there. And in that scenario, guys, and for the sake of this argument, let's say that the Olympics happen. Is there a reality? Because if they don't happen, I'm pretty sure we can have a 56 game season. I don't even think that's a question. But if they do happen, and there is still that July deadline for the NHL, do we have a real reality here of having a 50 game season for every single team with the way everything's going?
I think it's going to be on a division basis because they're only playing their own division. I don't think it matters if the North Division plays 56 games and the East Division plays 48 because of COVID. I think the players are going to complain, obviously, like rightfully so, right? Like what, they're playing 56 games and we're playing 48 or right, whatever the case is. I think they're going to complain, but I feel like, it can be done. Like, I think it's going to be on a division by division basis because how do you explain to Sportsnet in Canada that you're removing, or TSN, you're removing games from North Division schedule, from the North team's schedule, despite them having no issues with COVID? Hopefully that's the case, knock on wood. Right. I knocked on the table.
Have you knocked on any wood there, Daniel? Do you have a desk or something? Well, if that happens, it's all Daniel's fault. Your view on this, Dan.
Find the studs in the wall. Just knock on the wall.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting because this is a weird argument for me, because if you asked me this as a kid, I'm like, yeah, for sure, the Olympics, like that's one of the biggest things for hockey, in my opinion. And now I just kind of wonder.
Ones, by the way.
Pardon?
The summer ones, the ones this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. My apologies. Because I was thinking of like next.
No.
But yeah. It's still that possibility that is whether or not the summer ones are going to happen, because Japan right now are kind of like not giving a full answer about what they're going to actually do. And given the amount of sports and like the ones that they have to do, like, I don't know how you would do like a hybrid bubble in a way for that. Like, you ask everyone to come in like 2 months before, but the way that might affect the NHL is, I don't know. It's just, again, it's a weird predicament. I think this has been the theme of the episode so far, has been the money, has been whether or not this thing's going to air. And I personally would have to go on that side of, I don't want games to be canceled. I don't want games to be, completely erased, because I know with the NBA, what they're doing is, and they're making jokes about it because it's going to happen, where like there were some games that were postponed and they had like those ones, they were the back-to-backs, that you're going to see like 3 straight games of the same team, to finish off the season. And I don't know, maybe at that point where there'll be those games that won't really determine a playoff spot or anything. There'll be those games where, and this happens a lot in baseball, you're just going to see the taxi squad play a whole bunch of games because you're just prepping for the playoffs. So like maybe that will be another solution. Well, they'll still finish off the games that have been postponed, but you'll see a lot more AHL like taxi squad faces.
I wonder, imagine that the North Division sort of gets hit here, and It's the last spot is between Calgary and Edmonton, and let's just say a bunch of their games get delayed, and it's a 3-game Battle of Alberta to make up the end of the season, and just how fun that would be.
It would be the most watched hockey game.
Yeah,
NHL game. NHL
Yeah.
game. Not
that, or it's San Jose, Arizona fighting for. Oh dear. Oh man.
Arizona somehow comes back to find its way through the playoffs again.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how they deal with it. And just to point out, please don't try an all-star game. Please.
Like the NBA is.
The thing with and we've had this discussion, I think the thing with the all-star game is, especially in the NHL, is it's fun for the people who are sitting in the stands. Like, when was the last time you actually enjoyed watching an NHL all-star game? It's been a while.
2010.
The hardest shot, and that's it.
And that's because Weber's in there.
No, it just
Or just in general?
Yeah, I've always liked it in general.
Okay, so you like that one competition, and that's it, right?
They got rid of the shootout competition because it was fun.
Yeah,
I like the draft. That was fun.
And they got rid of that
they
too.
got rid of that
fun.
too.
They got rid of every fun thing about the All-Star game.
They traded Phil Kessel for Tyler Sagan again. They
that was great.
They picked
the car.
Yeah, right. So I just please don't do it. I beg you.
It's like another money thing, because like I remember the NBA too, they're losing a bit of money, and it's crazy. Like LeBron James even said, like, yeah, this is that would be stupid.
Right.
Like, no, that's like a super spreader right there.
LeBron's the man. I love him. He just isn't afraid to say anything. Forget. You know who's not afraid to speak his mind? Paul Maurice vehemently defended Blake Wheeler after, there was
because he heard our
rough
episode.
game. Kyle Connor didn't have a great back check, and Blake Wheeler was sort of caught.
Did we say something bad about Blake Wheeler, Daniel? I don't remember.
Anyway. Okay. And Blake Wheeler wasn't amazing on the shift either, but he was sort of in a bad position. Ends up being a goal the other way. And in the post game, Maurice was sort of asked about, if Blake Wheeler was sort of on another pedestal, to avoid, he's above sort of the being criticized. And Paul Maurice just went on this. I love Paul Maurice. He is a great quote. And I feel like whenever he talks, I believe it, right? Like, he just has this air about him when there's no BS with Paul Maurice. And I don't think we can play the audio, obviously, but there's a part of it where he talks of, he kind of trashes analytics, and he goes on about ignore Wheeler's, his plus minuses. He's got 11 points in 10 games. He's prorated at 88 points.
Wait a second. What? Is he arguing? Did he say plus minus is analytics? It's because I was gonna say that's the most basic analysis.
And he was just he's like, you're beaking my captain, and I'm offended. Now, normally I'm cool when a coach defends his player. Okay, you can see that. I understand it, and he goes about he talks about Wheeler's work ethic, really goes to town to defend him. And normally this wouldn't be a problem. Really, I think this is fine on any other day. And I mean, he's giving crap to really just that thing of you're beating my captain, I'm offended. I could not stop laughing. He was fantastic. And the Jets are not off to a bad start. They're third in the division. Honestly, they are.
They're flying.
They're flying. No, the issue here is that, and you can sort of tell that there was a bit of fuel here, because the past couple of weeks since the Dubois Line trade, there's been a lot of criticism to the Jets, and especially to Blake Wheeler. And I feel like this was definitely a part of Maurice has seen all of this. The Jets organization have gotten all of this. And, Maurice was very complimentary of Patrick Laine when the trade came out, by the way. But it just looks bad because of everything we've heard about Wheeler. It is becoming a story. And I think that's the last thing the Jets want.
Yeah, I don't think they want this story. I think it's progressively been over time. There's been questions about the Jets locker room, but I feel like they've just been swept under the rug or just denied, right? The whole thing with the Evander Kane stuff and this tracksuit, and then now we're hearing it with Laine again. And I've made the argument for why Patrick Laine should have been on the first line. It doesn't feel right. There has to be something that we're missing, and it's usually the case in a lot of things in hockey because so many things are kept quiet or under the wraps for a longer period of time. So my thing is, I think there's something missing in this entire situation. That's it.
Daniel, your phone dropped earlier for your lighting, and it was really funny. And because of that, I'm offended.
You're offended? Okay. Okay. But yeah, with Blake Wheeler, I kind of feel that how long are you going to kind of, ride this in a way? Because he's 34. He's not going to be able to play, those top line minutes all the time. Like, it's kind of a given. When you don't look at his cap hit, it's kind of a given where it's like a guy at that point and the amount of mileage he's had playing on this team, especially like, those key situations when they had those playoff runs, is like there's an expectation that he's going to take a bit of a step back. And I think what's been generated so much with this story has been what we've talked about is just like, that culture of it where, are these guys favored more than the others, that now he's a bit on the hot seat because, he's a guy that has performed now, but maybe he's taking a bit of a step back. And I think this is going to severely affect the Jets because, we hypothetically in 2-3 years, like you're going to have an $11 million guy.
I think it's like 8.5. I don't think
it's 8.5, including bonuses.
Sorry?
That's including bonuses, right?
Oh, you mean like really dollar. His cap hit is 8.25 for 4 years, 3 more after this.
Okay. Well, like that's going to be pretty bad, pretty steep for them as he enters his mid-30s. And that's kind of something too where I kind of feel like the Jets are in a situation now that they take that away. They're going to have Cole Perfetti coming in, but, we don't know what Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to be if he's going to still generate that same type of offense. So I think they've really put themselves in a situation where this is going to be criticized a lot more now as Blake Wheeler gets older and as his production, is expected to dip. Because, he's not a Sidney Crosby or like an Evgeny Malkin. I don't expect him to have those bounce back 90-point seasons again.
He doesn't have any signing bonuses. And what's funny is his salary is up to $10 million next year. So they're not going to trade him. But I remember I was thinking about this as well the other day. It's not the term, and it would probably be a little bit more, but this is kind of Patrick Laine's money, isn't it? Like, I feel like there must have been a point in this organization where they should have looked at the future and realized, like, this Blake Wheeler contract, it kind of crippled them.
Yeah.
And
well, even from the day it was signed, like it seemed like a lot of money.
I don't hate the money because again, he's like a 90-point. Like, talk about underrated. Blake Wheeler's underrated.
No.
It's just the term is just trash. Right. It is like he's gonna be 37, 38 when this contract's done.
Yeah, 3 more years after this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're absolutely right. Like that could be Patrick Laine's money.
Mm-hmm.
It could be. I mean, like I think after this year things start to open up a little bit in terms of cap for this team. Like Stastny is off that 6.5. Matthew Perreault is off that $4 million. And I mean, they still have to re-sign guys, yeah, but I think they're in a situation where maybe they might have a little more to work with. Plus, they have Connor Hellebuck on a hell of a contract.
Mm-hmm. The Bruins are 8-1-2.
As we expected. As we expected.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh.
David Pastrnak is now back. He in his first 4 games, 5 goals, 8 points, including a hat trick in there against the Flyers. Comeback one for the Bruins in there too. Fun game to watch. I'll admit it. I was wrong. I said the Bruins would disappoint. They're not. They're good. I was wrong. I don't know why for a second straight year I counted on the Buffalo Sabres because they have again disappointed me.
It's a weird mashup.
I don't feel smart right now.
I think with Boston, for me, it's just, I never doubted their forwards. I just doubted their defense.
Mm-hmm. Which was fair.
Yeah, and they've been able to keep it together, which is surprising to me that these guys have been able to step up, and like Matt Grzelcyk, or even like in a very, very sheltered role, Jakub Zaboral.
This is incredible.
Is it?
I don't
Greg
know.
Smith?
I don't know why. Like, I think you're absolutely right, Adam. I don't know why we keep counting on the Buffalo Sabres.
You know who else is having a great year? Bergeron is 15 points in 11 games played, by the way. I don't even want to look up what Brad Marchand's doing, but I'm gonna
15 points.
15. God damn it. I hate it. They were that good and they didn't have I think Marchand may have missed a few games and then they didn't have Pastrnak. I hate the Bruins. Thank God they're not in this division. I hate it. I'm happy it's 1 year more Bergeron's best games somehow at this age are in another division.
I think this is secretly why I want to keep the North Division.
So the Bruins
Maybe,
are just
yeah.
gone. Yeah, I agree. I can't stand it. I also can't stand what the Canucks are doing right now. I don't think anyone can. We really need to on. We got to shoot them an email and be like, I hope you're okay, first of all.
I am so
Second of
sorry.
all, can you please come on the show? We really need to. Canucks, we're going to talk about the Canucks and the Leafs in a second. Last night on Headlines, the best segment in the world, CJ, was it right?
Yes.
Reported that apparently the Canucks are looking at dealing Jake Virtanen. Feels like they've been doing that for a while, but
Why?
That's since like 2016.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the move. I mean, how does getting rid of Jake Virtanen, and with this, let's just shift the conversation, this included. The Canucks are doomed because they cannot get better. Even if their stars start performing, which they will, obviously. Quinn Hughes is leading defenseman in scoring. And Pettersson's going to stop hitting posts real soon.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's top 10 in league points. He is 1, 2, 6th. He has 16 points, Quinn Hughes.
Wow.
Yeah. And because their cap situation, they can't do anything. They're stuck.
Louis Eriksson played his first game last night.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't notice Louis Eriksson. I mean, I didn't know. The only guy I noticed other than Pettersson and Hughes, obviously, was Jalen Chatfield, and not for good reasons.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, not for good reasons.
Welcome to NHL moments last night.
It was so funny because I was talking to Mike when they played their first game against Vancouver, and we noticed Jalen Chatfield a couple of times, and Mike's like, who the hell is Jalen Chatfield? And then last night, there is your answer. That is who he is, I guess. Like, you're right. I feel bad for so many people on this team.
I have a random thing to say, and we'll go back to the Canucks.
Okay.
But you know how we always say CJ for Chris Johnson?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why don't we say MJ for Mike?
Oh, because, it's Mike Jags, eh?
Yeah,
but MJ is Michael Jordan.
Or Michael
Mary
Jackson.
Jane Watson.
Or Michael Jackson.
Or Michael
We don't need
Jackson.
to talk about Michael Jackson.
But like CJ, like where's CJ's like that, or I don't know anyone else with the initials C and J off the top of my head.
Curtis Joseph.
Cameron Johnson on the Phoenix Suns.
Curtis Joseph, good. That's a good one. But they call him Cujo, which is
Cameron
close
Johnson.
enough. The Phoenix Suns. Is that what we
CJ
play for?
McCollum.
The
Okay.
Canucks. You guys talked about Brayden Holtby. Oh, God. I know the goaltending has been amazing. I don't blame those guys. Especially after, JT Miller should not play next game for his effort in that game. Like Brayden Holtby's one of those the goalies that don't show emotion. And when he does, it's the most terrifying thing because you're like, oh, no.
Apparently, Elliot was saying last night on the broadcast that Holtby doesn't tend to talk about the play in front of him very often, and when he was in Washington, and last night apparently he did, which should say a hell of a lot. Like if there's a team who needs a player only meeting right now, it might be this team.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against Travis Green. But I just think someone needs to regroup this team because Travis Green might not be the answer at the moment.
So I want you to guess. So the Leafs have 33 goals against, Montreal 31, 32 for the Jets, 31 for the Flames. The Oilers are at 49. The Sens are at 52. Guess how many goals against the Canucks have?
I have a feeling it's more than Ottawa. Is it 55?
Daniel?
I'll say 61.
60.
Wow.
They have allowed
Wow.
60 goals. For reference, the second worst team is Sens at 52.
So is that league wide they are worst? Or is
Yes.
that just
It's not a 7-3 games there.
The Blues are at 39. That's brutal. A few 40 teams in the East, and even Detroit are only at 43. And again, 60 goals.
that's
8
horrible.
more goals allowed than the second worst team. Again, those are the Ottawa Senators.
And we're 12 games in.
I don't know what they're gonna like, because I'm thinking about like what are even their options, because their taxi squad's pretty barren too.
They don't have any.
Who is their taxi squad?
Who
is it?
If they actually do trade Jake Virtanen, I know like he's always had not a lot of problems, but he's been in the doghouse for Travis Green for quite a bit, and I think that you have to get. It's what we said about Sam Bennett the last episode. Is you have to stop thinking about what your expectations of when you first got him, and kind of, try to use him for what he is now. And they keep saying, "Oh, he's a two-way scoring guy," but I don't see that. I see like he's like a Nick Ritchie now. He's like a guy who was selected pretty high, but put him on the third line.
Do you want to know their taxi squad?
Okay.
Jack Rathbone.
Mm-hmm.
Olli Juolevi.
I guess not bad.
21-year-old Mikey DiPietro.
Gotta feel bad for him.
Julien Brisebois.
Don't know who that is.
Mark Michaelis. Rogan Rafferty.
Great name. That I will give him.
I have heard of Juolevi and DiPietro. I've never heard of those other guys. By the way, go ahead.
I'd honestly put Mikey DiPietro. I'd give him a few starts because this point?
Keep him away.
Listen. Remember when he walked into that locker room because they were forced with injury and he got shelled? And listen, he was like 19. He wasn't NHL ready. I think we all knew that at the time. Honestly, this might be worse for him.
His
Maybe
goals
he's like
against
yearning
average,
to like redeem himself.
in the 2 NHL games he's played, his goals against average are 7 and 7.1.
Oh my God.
But I have to tell you guys a story.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the 2014 conference finals. Was it the conference finals? No, semifinals. A 21-year-old John Gibson came into the lineup for the Anaheim Ducks and was good.
Okay.
Maybe that will happen here.
I no.
No.
Like this is I don't know if listen, like I hate to compare them to this team, but Jordan Binnington came in. I don't think he was the sole listen, I don't think there's really an argument to be made that he was the sole reason there was a comeback from this team. I think he was one of the reasons. It helps when your good players start to play good. That's always helpful, right? I don't know what the solution is here. And the worst thing about this Jake Virtanen stuff is the fact that they were running out of time to sign Tyler Toffoli. Sorry, Jake if you had to not qualify Jake Virtanen so you can go sign Tyler Toffoli, I do it like this. I do it in a heartbeat. Because when the Kings were good, Tyler Toffoli was good. When the Kings were bad, Tyler Toffoli necessarily didn't look so great. Same thing, and it's a common thing. When he got traded to Vancouver, he looked damn good again. And now this year, I mean, sure, he scored most of his goals against Vancouver, but that's besides the point. The way Tyler Toffoli has looked as a Montreal Canadian, is incredible. Like it looks back to his LA days when they were good.
So, for those of you who do not know, Jim Benning, and I believe this was either right before or after the latest game between Montreal and Vancouver, where Toffoli toe dragged through his legs, backhand, far side on Thatcher Demko and humiliated Jordy Ben. I heard he's still in the Bell Center looking for his jockstrap. He was asked about it. He said that they had simply ran out of time to sign Tyler Toffoli, who wasn't even signed the first day of free agency, by the way, and they had an extended period because he was under contract.
That is one of the worst excuses.
By the way, without the negotiation period as well for other teams, because they got rid of that.
That is one of the most embarrassing lines I've ever heard. I'm going to do, and I'm going to go to a professor. You know what? I'm going to email a professor and say, sorry, I couldn't get your assignment done. Like, this is top priority, one of your top priorities. And you say, sorry, professor, I couldn't get your assignment done because I had to deal with my other not so important things.
Sir, I got really distracted because my neighbors are screaming a lot of stuff right now, and I had a heart attack.
They're probably listening to this podcast and screaming with us.
It sounded like Mark Hamill laughing. My heart stopped. I was genuinely
like the
terrified.
Joker from the animated series.
Sounded like yeah, it did.
Wow.
I was I don't know if they're blasting and they keep going. I keep hearing stuff. I was genuinely scared for a second there. The Canucks are bad. It sucks. It really does suck. I feel terrible for so many people on that team.
Like, what's the answer in your opinion? What do you guys think is the answer? Speechless. That's the answer.
That is a great question.
Try anything. I think try anything. Empty out the taxi squad. See what fits. See what sticks. I don't know. Give Braden Holtby a break. You know what I mean? Like, it's just give him like a week off.
Just let Thatcher Demko just take all of the shots.
Like, is this on Braden Holtby? Partially.
Everyone is to blame right now, but
on that defense, you just put not anybody, but I mean
that Matthews goal.
Fix anything.
Like, come on, like there was just he was left out to dry. He really was. When you break Braden Holtby, who after years and years of just being humiliated by the Penguins in the second round, you've had him for like 12 games and you broke him. In 12 games, you broke Braden Holtby.
He had trouble bringing his turtles across.
I know.
And this is how you treat him? Ashamed. You should be ashamed.
He's probably regretting it.
Like, I don't know what the solution is. That's why I'm asking, like, Daniel, do you have a solution?
The guys who have been making, like what we said, JT Miller, Jake Virtanen, make a statement out of it. If it's not going to be a healthy scratch, put them both on the fourth line.
Like, I think it's hard to say. I think it's hard to just plain out scratch them because look at the taxi squad. Like, they don't have a taxi squad the way that Montreal and Toronto have a taxi squad. They have players who can actually come in and be somewhat sufficient. They have who?
They have
guys that no
Rathbone.
One knows. Guys that no one knows. I mean, it doesn't help Travis Hamonic is on the IR. It really doesn't. Like,
the only guy they got in the Calgary.
Yeah. Like it's hard. And the answer is not firing Travis Green. And I went on Canucks Twitter after last night's game because I was just having way too much fun. And I don't think that's the guy you get rid of. Like, I think he's a good coach. Like, I don't think that's up for debate here. I think he was handed a platter of, like, I don't know what.
Without him, they do not get to against Vegas last year. They really don't. I mean,
no,
he's getting everything out of them where it was last year, and just look at what he has right now. What was it they asked him about? What's great about? He compared it to Montreal. I was like, well, they brought in a bunch of players and they used their money. And the Canucks don't have any money.
I mean,
how do you fix
you're
it,
right.
Alex? I have an answer. You get a DeLorean You get some uranium. You
Oh,
go,
yes, I
what's
love
it,
it.
60 miles per hour? 70?
88 miles per hour.
You go 88 miles per hour. You go back to July 1st. You slap Jim Benning and you say, stop signing these contracts.
You cut his phone cord so he can't make calls.
And wear the stylish Nikes too, the Nike mags, just for the added.
You listen. You make a good. Travis Green made a great point. They spent their money. So did Vancouver. They just didn't spend it wisely.
Brandon Sutter.
Hey,
not even Brendan Sutter. He has a hat trick. Have some respect.
Listen, yeah,
Beagle and Roussel.
like it is. This is very rough. Like this is, and I think you said it last episode, Daniel, that things cannot. They like you thought they hit rock bottom, and even Steve Dangle put out a tweet saying, I said this in my last video. You don't beat up the Canucks and they come back, and they don't try to at least come back. Well, how many games did Montreal play against Vancouver? 2 or 3? 4?
I think it's 3 or 4. Yeah.
3. So we're talking like 6. The first game against Montreal, Montreal lost in overtime. So we're talking shootout. So we're at like 4 or 5 straight games of absolute mauling of this team. Like, I don't know if we've hit rock bottom yet. Like, I don't.
Listen, if the way we're talking about them, it may be like how we talked about the Sens, and then they're going to come out and beat the Leafs in Montreal next time, because that's how the world works. First, though, I mean, it was also a bad sign that, how old is Jason Spezza? 36?
37.
37-year-old Jason Spezza got a hat trick against.
Turned it back to 07.
How does that happen? It was, I thought it was Danny Heatley out there.
That third goal made Thatcher Demko, did not look good.
You know who I remember when this guy was on Montreal Canadian, and on the power play or penalty kill, he'd take a face off and he'd get off the ice. Scored 1 goal. Dale Weiss was on the breakaway and gave it to him skating down the ice. But as a coach, he helped Vancouver a lot. He's done wonders for Toronto, and you can see it on the face-offs and power plays. And oh boy, does Manny Malhotra get all the credit. He is. If there was an award for great assistant coaches, I think Manny Malhotra would be right up there.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
He is married to Steve Nash's sister.
I did not know that.
Really?
That's interesting.
Good.
I think you're absolutely right. Like, I think Manny Malhotra, you know what? And I don't know if a lot of people would admit this, but I think I'm confident in admitting this. I'm very happy with Manny Malhotra signing, and I'm perfectly fine that the Leafs did not bring in Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah.
Same here.
I'm very confident in admitting that. Now, obviously, hindsight is 2020, knowing what Manny Malhotra has done so far, but I'm liking what this team did. I can't explain to you the face-off stuff. I saw Kevin Bieksa, I think, talk about it last night. Yeah. But apparently he's done wonders.
Defensive face-off specialist.
That was his whole thing. He was better than Bergeron that year. I remember in face-off, like legit, his job was face-off off the ice.
Oh no, I was saying face-off specialist Kevin Bieksa.
The defenseman. You know what? It is funny though, Daniel, because we had Harmon on the show, obviously, after free agency, and he, you know what? Alex asked him about Manny Malhotra, and there's been word that he's this great up-and-coming young coach.
Yeah.
I was throwing it to you there, Dan. If you
sorry. I thought you. Okay, yeah.
I didn't know that was the end of the sentence.
He is a guy that I remember looking back on his career, because I actually got to see like quite a bit of it as he kind of became a bit of a journeyman. But every time he kind of went in, it was like he was like the de facto captain wherever he went. That I remember on San Jose, he didn't get an A when back when Joe Thornton or Patrick Marleau were one of the captains. But he was always considered one of those leaders. And then even in Vancouver, that, he gets injured in the finals in 2011, and he's still considered like, a voice in the locker room. So I think this was something that was going to happen. It was an inevitable thing that was going to happen. And I'm happy that he came to Toronto. And it's another thing that we said, like, even not on the ice, but also behind the bench, you could never have too much leadership.
No. And just to speak on the power play, because I know we did focus on the faceoffs there for a little, but I think this power play looks completely different than what they had the last couple years. And nothing against Paul McFarland. Like that power play unit in Florida that 1 year was very good, right? I think it ended second in the league. But the way that this power play looks is very different than the way he had it. Paul McFarland had it looking, and there's a lot more flow in it. And obviously, we've had the discussion about it. Take it with a grain of salt because it's a Canadian division. But even like, I'm interested to see how the power play looks against Montreal, because I think that first game against Montreal was a little sloppy from the Leafs. But so far, it looked like it's flowed much better. It's not the same guys in the same position. Like I saw Matthews last night, not directly in front of Holtby, but just out there, like in front of the net somewhat. Like he's not always on the side. He's not always on the right side they're switching spots. And I think that's the one thing fans asked for last year. And this year, Manny Malhotra's done absolute wonders with this power play.
Mm-hmm. Another thing on the Leafs page is obviously Sam Bennett finally scored last night, being on the top line in the Battle of Alberta game. Even though it was really funny, there was a play where Tyson Barrie kept like a good defensive play by Barrie.
What?
Bennett couldn't score.
I'm shocked.
You know what? I want to say this right now. And no one said a bad thing about Tyson Barrie's entire time in Colorado. Then he got to Toronto, and his reputation is never going to be the same. I feel so bad for him.
No, but wait a second.
But like,
wait a second. Okay, last year I was 100% way too harsh on him. I admitted that. But even people in Colorado say his defensive abilities were not that great. He got traded to Toronto. It didn't help. Remember on day one of when he signed in Edmonton, he said, well, the media is really tough. You signed in Edmonton. Let's remember that, right? He knows what he signed up for.
He made this play and like Bennett couldn't get one and then went the other way and the Oilers scored.
Yeah.
It was poetry in motion. Thank God Bennett ended up scoring and then another play and Calgary won. And just Koskinen could not stop a thing in the third period. Story of the Oilers. They're not going to trade Nylander for Bennett.
Oh
the
my
Leafs
God!
Are not
Why
going
would,
to trade
why
for
would
Sam
you
Bennett.
do that?
I saw a tweet that Alex liked. I don't remember who it was from, but it was the Leafs don't need another third line player.
No, like they don't. I'm not comfortable with them giving up an asset for Sam Bennett. And I'll tell what Keefe has done with this team, which is different than what Mike Babcock did, is he's willing to try different things. With Babcock, even in this situation, even through injuries, he picks one or two guys. Now with Simmons out, 3 guys. Those are the guys that you're going to plug in. He's not going to change that. With Keefe, he brought in Engvall, he brought in Boyd, he brought in Patan, he's brought in Joey Anderson. Like he's willing to try these guys that we didn't necessarily think we were going to see a whole lot of this season. Mm-hmm. And some of them have impressed. Like Travis Boyd has not looked awful. Engvall has actually looked, in my opinion, better than after he signed that contract. Patan has looked decent. Like I have people texting me who are into hockey, who don't know the ins and outs, have said, man, Patan does not look awful on the ice, which says something to me.
If you're Toronto, you want a sure guy for your depth role. The thing with Bennett is just, you flip a coin to see what you're going to get every night with Sam Bennett. And I just don't see the fit.
I don't see the fit either. Like I think
earned anything.
I think we saw that report that the Leafs are looking for forwards, and I think the 3 of us, I think the Leaf fans have kind of blew it out of proportion, saying, "Oh, they're going to look at this guy, they're going to look at this guy." Like I can see them going after a forward, but I don't necessarily see it Sam Bennett, because I think I think they're looking at a guy like, let's say, Tyler Ennis, someone who's fine not playing every single night. It's just a matter of depth. But I have a feeling Kyle Dubas might rethink that idea. I mean, listen, he's always going to be out looking here or there where to improve. But I think the depth that the guys have shown on this team might have changed Dubas's perception of what they actually need.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, because a lot of that depth, I think that it's been slotting in and it's been just so effective. Like, we also have Adam Brooks in there, where, I've always been a huge fan of him. And I think that,
great name,
yes, perfect fit, I think, so far. And thing with Sam Bennett, I remember Kevin Bieksa, he's a guy that maybe I'm referring to like crazy this episode, but he's a guy that also he had a great point yesterday. It's like, hey, do you want, referring to Sam Bennett, you want to get traded, then be tradable.
Yes.
This is a guy that I think that we talked about his draft integrity, or something about Brad Treliving not really wanting to take a loss, but I personally believe the way he's played and what he's developed into, they've already taken a loss on that 4th overall pick. That maybe they're gonna do something with it, but he's someone that, based on how he's kind of carried himself, I wouldn't want him in Toronto. And second, I just, it's like what we said. I don't know what is Sam Bennett, what he's gonna kind of give you, because if he's just gonna be that bottom 6 guy and he's gonna have a bit more of that grit to it, then I don't think he's really worth the shot, unless it's an incredible price for the Leafs.
What do you mean by the way he handles himself?
He doesn't accept a role.
Yeah, he doesn't know what his role is, and if I was him, I wouldn't demand a trade after I put up 12 points last year.
Or
that's
until
fair.
Last night, had a single assist all season.
Yeah, and it was a -3 going into the game.
No, yeah, that's fair. No, I'm just curious.
It's just that kind of thing where, it's like the Jack Roslovic thing, but I would actually pick Jack Roslovic over Sam Bennett.
So would I.
Player safety, by the way, Radim Semek has been fined $5,000 for spearing Anaheim's Adam Henrique.
Wow, they did something? Sorry, did you just say the Department of Player Safety did something? This is a huge announcement.
Yeah.
We need to have a party.
Think about Tyler Myers or Dylan Dubé, and they're not going to do anything about Eric Branson either. But before we get to Montreal, I guess we should talk about the Senators, and I'd like to apologize to the Senators. I remembered the day leading up to that game. I listened to our podcast. I listened to Steve Dangle, Hockey Central, and everyone was just ripping the Sens. And then what did they freaking do? See, there are 3 teams that I will never underestimate in this league. The Leafs, because the Bruins, and the Sens, because, listen, I don't give a damn about rosters, about the analytics, the eye test, when these teams play each other. Because there is just some sort of witchcraft that brings them all to an equal level playing field. It doesn't matter how good or bad Montreal are when they play the Leafs, the Bruins, or the Sens, and it's vice versa. And the Sens, god damn it, they steal one of the games. Luckily, Montreal win the second game. Oh my god, it's just. And Matt Murray had his best game of the season. Make him big. I could not stand it. I'm sorry I called you Cam Ward. But it was like he's a civ.
Why are you sorry?
Yeah, I thought.
Cam Ward's
he's like Patrick Lalime. It's like, what is this?
Patrick Lalime was good for that 1 year. He had a cool goalie mask, though.
Listen, there aren't a lot of great Senators goalies, and I didn't think of Craig Anderson off the top of my head. Okay.
Dominic
Hey,
Hasek
don't
played that
forget
1
about
year.
Robin Leonard.
No, it doesn't count.
Oh, he
What
doesn't.
about Dominic
count,
Hasek?
okay.
He was a Sen?
Yeah, for 1 year.
Ben
doesn't
Bishop.
count.
Ben Bishop. Ben Bishop.
Doesn't
Does he count? Doesn't he count?
No, he doesn't count.
Joey Decord. I'm just joking.
Their best goalie, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Matt Murray. There was something on headlines last night. Elliot Friedman saying apparently the Derek Stephon trade has nothing to do with his play. Apparently it's a personal thing, and something I think we kind of forget. You gotta realize, imagine you're traveling and the season's been going nearly a month now, a few days away from that. if you're a Shark, for example, you haven't been home in how long? And these players are, first of all, I doubt Derek Stepan wants to get traded. But, the guys are away from their family, and this isn't easy. So apparently, I don't know if there was Friedman didn't say it was a particular request of a trade, but apparently it is a family thing. So sorry, Ottawa. I know we also ripped them on that.
Well,
but
wait a second, but I think you can still put a little bit of blame on Ottawa. I don't think there's any blame to go on Derek Stepan, but I find it hard to believe that you're not in contact with this guy's agent, knowing that Derek Stepan's on the block, right? We knew Derek Stepan was on the block. Don't you reach out to his agent and say, hey, would your client play here?
Yeah, but is it beyond the realm of belief that this is a recent thing?
That's the thing. We don't know. You're absolutely right. Like, that's the thing. If it's a recent thing, then there's no blame to go around to anybody. But if this is a thing from the start, then we're having a different discussion about Ottawa.
Elliot, get the details. We need them.
We'll wait
and then come on the show and
I know.
and announce them.
The show. Yeah.
Bring Jeff with you too. Emil, why not?
Why not?
I helped you guys.
Do you remember him? Do you remember?
Do you remember?
Do you remember him?
Like these shoes, eh? I hate the Sens. I hate the Sens. And you know what?
They're a
Playing
weird
the
team.
Sens again, I was like, Jesus Christ. I forgot that the Canucks are both in this division. It sucks. I can't wait for the American team next year and you put the Canucks on the same line. It's like, God, back off.
I don't remember whose projected lineup it was, but it was Kachuk, both Kachucks on the wings, obviously, and then Jack Hughes down the middle.
Can we talk about by the fact that the Americans are not as good as Canada? Because no offense, Matthews and Eichel are not McKinnon, Crosby, McDavid.
No.
Like, can we just put a cap on people saying that the American? No, they don't. No, they don't. Stop it. No. John Carlson's a great defenseman.
No.
He's not Pietrangelo.
Or Bowen Byram.
No.
I think I had Bowen Byram on my Olympic prediction.
I think you did.
Did you?
I did because I said he was going to pull a 2010 Drew Doughty.
Okay. I'll talk about a guy who honestly, Pierre LeBrun's been talking about this, and I agree with him. A guy who really, I would not be surprised if this guy makes the American defense. It won't be easy because there's Jones and Carlson on that right. John Carlson, obviously, on the right side. Jeff Petry. And I hate that he plays the way he does in a Canadian market. When for 3 years, I tuned into Hockey Central and every damn day, or the Steve Dangle podcast. The Leafs need this right-handed defenseman every day. But and the attention on the defense in Winnipeg and the Sens, and they're just trash, and all the drama on Erik Karlsson, how nobody just looked and was like, where's the credit for Jeff Petry? Seriously, he's taken Weber's top spot on the power play. When Romanov was scratched and they had to move around the power play, you know who got kicked off the first unit? It was Shea goddamn Weber. Jeff Petry is leading goal-scoring defenseman right now.
Is he in the Norris conversation?
I think he'll get. I think he deserves votes. He's not going to win it. He shouldn't win it. He's not. I saw somebody saying all they said was he should, for Norris, Petry, you can have a campaign. And then the Canucks fan got immediately completely offended. He was like, well, Jack, Quentin Hughes, we're not saying he's better than Quentin Hughes, but just calm the hell down. I think he deserves to get some votes. If you put him 5th on your ballot, I think he deserves it. I can't believe no one's talking about this guy because he is just, boy. Especially just everything. Every Canadian team, there's a conversation with defense. It just feels like Montreal's right side never gets the respect as it deserves. I was talking with Alex before the show about this. No one's respecting Ovechkin enough. On a lot lower scale, Jeff Petry needs some goddamn respect.
We respect him on this show.
I'm pretty sure we had a discussion either on or off the show about the Leafs and Jeff Petry. And then I'm like, yeah, that's just not going to happen. Not because Jeff Petry, the player, but because Montreal and Toronto. Like it'd be a bloodbath.
If he left and signed in Toronto, I don't know what I'd do. I'd just be like, God damn it.
That would be, that'd be.
I still look back on
else.
what the Habs gave away in the first place to the Oilers for him.
Nothing. Was it practically nothing?
Yeah, it was practically.
Who was the GM? Who was the GM?
Was it Greg McTavish?
That's a good question.
Of course.
I remember that one of those seconds became like Cam Talbot. Like they traded it to New York for Cam Talbot.
Hold on a minute. 2015 Oilers GM. Because I think that was the 15 deadline. Who was the Oilers GM?
The Edmonton Oilers.
Oh my.
Was it Peter?
The GM of the Oilers for the 15-16 season was Peter Chiarelli.
Oh, okay.
What a surprise!
There it is.
Anyway, what a surprise!
My apologies, Greg McTavish.
Sorry,
Jeff Petry, respect him.
Good
God
guy.
damn it.
Major respect.
I love him.
And we thought,
love him.
How many conversations did we have on this podcast about trading Petry into But because like Montreal was in a different situation, obviously. Like
now he's in the right situation.
Well, because Bergevin's saying, and I was agreeing with him here, that they expected to be good this year.
Yes.
And Tatar and Petry were going to help with that.
Like I don't think
and again, who do you replace him with? You can't. Like you can't replace Jeff Petry just like that.
No.
The Oilers have been trying to do that for years and they can't.
Yeah. I think, with the moves that Bergevin made, I don't necessarily think you look at this team and say, oh yeah, they're just there.
I still can't believe how many people were so surprised that the Canadians are doing well, by the way. I cannot believe it.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing is I wasn't skeptical. I was interested to see how the team would look on the ice, because I think it's great that and it happens a lot in other sports too, where a team brings in a bunch of new guys and it doesn't necessarily work on the field, on the ice, wherever. I think if you look at the names that they brought in, I think there's an argument to be made. They had they had the best offseason in the league on paper. But what do they look?
Our tier list episode.
Right. Yeah. Go check that out. I just think it's hard to make, that's why, I think it's hard to even to say, okay, who's it's the awards. I don't know what they're going to look like on the ice. We do it because it's fun, but it's I don't know who's going to win the Vezina. I'm just taking guesses based on the team in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where the skepticism came.
I felt the same way too, that, there's a lot of moving pieces there. We didn't really know how things were going to go, but, Montreal's been able to do it. And again, from a lot of successful teams that have been able to do it, they didn't give away any prospect capital. They didn't give away, really any draft picks, and they've been able to kind of still make this team into what it is now.
What was Allen, a fourth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look how good he's been. He was the reason they beat Ottawa in that second game, by the way. He's been better than Carey Price. Honestly, Jake Allen has been the better goalie. And I'm guessing this question in the doc is from the Rachel Dory tweet. She tweeted out this thing of apparently Carey Price's high danger save percentage is 960. I was like, excuse me?
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Because he hasn't been great. And then she talked about, I think it was the shooting percentage being over of Anderson and Toffoli, because they're above 10% above their normal one, right?
Yeah, I saw that. It wasn't the reason I wrote the question down. It was just I was curious, but I'm just being skeptical to be skeptical. I don't necessarily think there's going to be major regression, because I think looking at the guys in general that are on this team and the way they've gelled and just the way they've looked so far, it's not like they're just going to be bleh. I don't know another word to use.
So the full question, for those of you who cannot see the doc, and no one can except the three of us, and sometimes Mike, maybe Harmon if he has the link. I don't know. The
Five people
Habs.
there.
What?
We see like 5 or 6 people like
Yeah.
on the dock.
I wonder
So the
who it is.
question you posed on the doc, Alex, was question, colon. The Habs look really good, comma. Any fear of major/minor regression? Plus, is the team still dependent on everyone, comma, like last year, question mark, hyphen, Alex? First off, still dependent on everyone, like, what do you mean by that part?
Well, remember last year, the whole thing was like you had to, if one guy or if a couple guys weren't rolling, it kind of the cookie crumbled.
Basically, if the Deneau line wasn't doing anything, they were screwed.
Yeah.
Right. Like, are you worried that if one line stops producing, it kind of not ruins the rest of the team, but slows things down? Because it's like last year, it was a lot of, you don't have one. I would argue that you have stars, right? You have a couple stars, but you don't have one blatant guy that does everything. You have a lot of
game breaker.
Right. Like you have a lot of guys who are game changers, but not like elite, like top tier.
Well, so comparing it to last year, okay, so let's say, and the Deneau line is shut down, Gallagher, Tuna can't do anything. The reason where there's a bit more faith for me in this team is, well, to start the season, that Gallagher line wasn't great. And it was Anderson and the Toffoli lines that looked great, plus the fourth line scoring those shorthanded goals.
Right.
What have you seen last game or the loss against the Sens? Suzuki had easily his worst game of the season. That line wasn't fantastic. But then all of a sudden, the Tatar, Deneau, Gallagher line started looking like their old selves, right? It's exactly sort of what you expect from the team is just how they are seriously the textbook definition of a 4-line team is whenever guys have been down, the other lines are picking up the slack, which is exactly the sort of is what you expect from the Canadians. Now, like, I obviously don't expect guys like Anderson and Toffoli to continue to shoot 20%. At the same time, the reason I think their percentages are that high is like, it's not like Josh Anderson is just getting weak goals. The guy is literally his goal against Matt Murray was the third chance on the guy. And he's literally the guy who goes to the net and he gets the good chances, right? And Toffoli is scoring so much because he has a hate boner for the Canucks and their defense sucks. It's going to even out as they play more games against the Leafs and they go against the Jets and the Flames have been a bit more. So right now, I'm still confident. Is there going to be some regression? They're not going to average scoring 4.5 goals a game. That's not sustainable. The save percentage thing, I was like, okay, that's obviously, I think like the average for high danger save percentage is like 8 something. And I was like, okay, that is a concern. Though I'm like, but Carey Price's save percentage right now is still pretty. I wanted to see Allen's stats because that's one that I think is going to be very telling. By the way, Jake Allen has already matched the point percentages of Carey Price's backup from last year. And we've just started the year. So I think we're going to get, there's still a lot to see about this team.
Right.
But they haven't played the Jets yet, which is really weird, by the way. We'll get a crystal clear. You can tell the identity, but we'll see how they're going to match up against the better teams when we get more than one game against the Toronto Maple Leafs and all the rust is off. Once they get to see the Jets and their elite talent, is when we'll really, really, really see what the team is made of.
Yeah, like I think this week, because the Leafs play Montreal Wednesday and Saturday, I think this week's going to be a really telling week for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
But you brought up, like, I think you put it perfectly. The way the Canadians look this year is that if one line's off, others will pick up the slack. And I think that's what the issue was last year. I feel like every time we had a discussion about the Canadians, it was, well, if one line's not going, no one else is picking up their slack. Mm-hmm. And if someone goes down, it's a catastrophe. Like that's what it was like last year. So if what you're saying is true, then I don't necessarily think there's that worry anymore.
All I think is the lines are all stuffed now, in a way. They're all set. I think that what we said last time is, well, really we said last year was they didn't have that, that spunk in every line that, you had these guys here and there that, we will plug them in, but now you don't have that. You don't have to rely so much on the other guys that there are guys that are really picking up the slack here and there.
Right.
And now we have Habs legend Corey Perry,
Yes.
who's
bridging the friendship on this show. I love it.
there was this picture of it was Allen and Perry celebrating. I was like, what is this? Is this real? Am I dreaming? What's going on here? That's supposed to be like Price and Gallagher. I'm so confused. Weird team.
Will Corey Perry go to the Leafs next year though to finally bridge everything on this show?
How about you let me enjoy him?
All right. We're still talking about like getting the discount jersey already for him.
It's gonna be different. 94 is such a weird number though.
Yeah, it's
94.
interesting.
Where's 94?
Should search that.
That's a good question. Someone definitely wears 94. I feel like I remember seeing someone wear 94. I just couldn't tell you who it was. I'm seeing like I don't know.
Oh, Jeremy Roenick, I think.
That is
Who wore
okay.
Well, Roenick's a bad person though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he still wore 94. If if the question is who wore 94, there's our answer.
Nice.
94. Ryan Smith.
That's
not who I was thinking of. But
I never liked Ryan Smith.
What?
I never liked Ryan Smith.
Why not?
This is very okay. So this was 2006 of the conference finals. This was again the last the Mighty Ducks team, and I don't know. He just kept crashing the crease on Giguère, and then Giguère got mad and put his glove on his face and just threw him down, and then he gets a penalty for that.
Oh, I know who wore 94. Tyson Barrie on the Leafs.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I'm like, where have I seen this number? It's like sitting right in front of me.
By the way, Roenick was 27.
Oh.
At least in his heyday, when he was a Shark and when he was a Blackhawk man, he was 90s. He was 27.
Sam Girard wore 94 when he played in Nashville.
Oh, I always forget he was a Predator.
Remember when they gave him up?
For Cal Torres.
Silly.
How the hell did they end up giving that much up in that trade?
I don't know. It makes zero sense.
Because they were going all in, guys, remember?
On who?
No, they were going all in because they were still thinking they could get back to the finals.
Yeah.
I think at the time,
good old days.
They got their centerman. Now it's like, oh no, they still need a centerman.
Oh, now I know why they paid so much for Cal Torres. Sorry, I'm holding a Sharpie. This is why.
Hold more things than you, damn it.
It was 2017, and Ryan Johansson broke his leg against the Ducks, and then they went into the finals with without a true guy they could put on the first line. I'm not gonna call Ryan Johansson a first line center, but yeah, that ended up happening. They traded for Turris, but remember they also overpaid Bonino.
Yes. You think you can hold things, Daniel?
Please check out the YouTube for this visual component of Adam's stuff.
Holding multiple things. Holding his cup upside down and just dripped on my leg. God damn it. Okay. I think that's everything, right?
Is it from the beaker?
No, it's my Lions mug. This is the tattoo of Escanor, the lion's sin of pride from the 7 deadly sins.
You know who else wore 94?
Who did?
Alexander Barabanov.
Oh.
Sergei Berezin.
Leafs legend.
A Russian somewhere.
Yannick Perreault.
Yeah.
Leafs legend.
Tom Pyatt.
All right.
Brendan Shanahan.
Thank you for
with an asterisk.
Okay, so that's a good one. Okay, well, thank you for everyone who tuned into the show today. We really appreciate it. If you're checking in on the podcast app for iOS, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and a review. We would love to see it. Follow the show on Twitter, on Instagram. Check out the YouTube portion of the show for a video experience. You'll love to see it. Thank you, The Voice Ad, as always, for being a fantastic platform for the show. Check out Alex's blog, Daniel's work for the Hockey Riders, as well as for the Eye Opener. Check out my YouTube channel and our own personal social medias as well. I believe that is everything.
And don't forget Derek Bugard wore 94 the last season he played with the Rangers.
And we will see you Wednesday when we preview Game 2 between the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Goodbye.